Hi, welcome to Wood Chip Woodworking. Today, we're going to do a wavy flag. I got some 2x4s here. We're going to cut and shape and do all kinds of stuff and paint them and, finagle them and whatever to make a wavy flag. If you watch some videos online, you're going to see there's quite a variety of ways to do this. This just happens to be the way that I do it. It's not wrong, right, or indifferent. It's just the way I do it. So it'll be kind of fun to do. We're going to do a little cutting, shaping, sanding, painting, gluing. We'll have it all. So stick around for that. But first, let's do a little housekeeping. And the housekeeping would be, smack this algorithm, if you want to call it, and let's get this channel to grow some more. Please share, subscribe, like, give me some comments down below in the comment section. Send me an email, whatever you feel free to do. Curious on what your thoughts on this flag is. We're doing one today that's roughly about 17 by 30, so it'll be a good size flag. With that in mind, let's get started. So I guess the first thing we need to do is cut our 2x4s to length. And once we do that, then we got to trim up the edges so they go square. And then we got to lay out our pattern. So let's get started on that. Hang tight and let's meet me over to miter saw and we'll get her cut. All right, so we're at the miter saw here. And first thing I want to do is square up my end here. So we're just going to take off just a hair off the end. And don't forget your safety equipment, earplugs, saws. I have a high pitch, so I wear my earplugs when I do some of this stuff. So let's get cutting. All right, so I need 31 inches. So I got 32, so I'm going to make it 31. Cut this end. All right, there's one. I need 13 of them. So I need 13 of these 31 inches long 2x4s. So it's going to take a minute to cut all these. All right. So I'll finish cutting these up. There's no use watching me do the same thing over and over, and we'll be right back. Hang tight. All right, well, welcome back. Right now, all we're going to do is we're going to trim off this edge and kind of give us a good square edge to work with. So I'm just going to trim off just a smidgen on this. So I want to trim off just a tiny bit to give me a good square edge to work with. So we're at the table saw and I'll trim this off and see what we come up with. So let's do that real quick. This is just my test piece. With this, you guys just take the time and you can see. That's all I want to do is get a square edge like that. And then what I'll do, turn it over and do the other side. I'm just taking a hair off, that's all I'm doing. That looks good right there, so I think we're in good shape. So let's set the saw up and run all these through and go from there. So again, I'm just kind of taken just a smidgen off, not even the blade's width off. So easier with a short piece to get it set up. So I can I'll do all one side and then I'll adjust it and go from there. Get my test piece in here. Perfect. I'll just run these through. Clean up the edges. Alright, I'll do that to all 13 and I'll be right back. Hang tight. Well, that was fun. I got all my boards cut. Somebody's probably asking, why am I doing that? Well, I wanted a nice flat edge so when this is laying down, you have a nice clean edge on the back. It just makes it look nicer. You don't have to do that, but I just take that edge off and then when I glue these up, they'll be nice and flat laying on the table. So, all right, so the next thing we do is we got to come up with our wave. So what I did was I come up with this little pattern, here, and I marked it out, as you can tell, 1 inch increments laying on this. And then when I lay it up there, I lay it on top of the board, and then each line I move it over 1 inch and then go from there. So let's get this set up so that we can mark out our wave. So hang tight. All right, so let's lay out our pattern here and let's get started. I'll adjust the camera here so you can see what I'm doing. See how this works. So I lay this out, and since my first one, this is going to be my first one, I'm going to lay it right there on that edge. And I'll take my pencil and just trace my pattern here. All right, so you can see I got my pattern laid out. I'll do that 13 times and then we'll cut them on the bandsaw. So I just take and the other thing I got to do is, this is what helps keep them there, is you got to number these. So when you do this, you end up with not just one flag, but 2 flags. And this is where the difference in the way people make these is how they make them and you know how many flags they get out and do it. And I'll explain some more of it, what I do differently than other people. So I put a 1 here and I put an A here. So I know the numbers go with one flag and the alphabet goes with the other. So again, I take this, and as you can see, I've already drawn my first one. So I put my number 2 mark up there, lay my pattern on the edge, and I trace it out. Again, this is 2 and this would be B. And I'll do that 13 or 12 more times. So I got my patriotic Mountain Dew here. We'll continue to work on this as we work on our flag. So hang tight and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. I guess you could say I finished it up. I got my number 13, laid it up there like that, drew it on, and you can see I switched to a marker instead of my pencil because it's easier to see, and got them all laid out. So the next thing is, let's go to the bandsaw and let's get them cut out. So hang tight and we'll get set up for that. All right, so here we are at the bandsaw. I got blade clearance set up. So what I'm going to do is cut these out, follow that. We should be in good shape. So here we go. I'm going to follow my line the best I can, and then we'll go from there. Taking my time to cut them out. I cut it on the line as much as I can because it'll save me sanding later. And I'll explain that when we get to that step. If you don't cut on the line, it's not a big deal. We got some sanding to do, so you just kind of follow your line the best you can. And you break a blade now and then. So just broke my blade, and we'll put a new blade on, be right back. Alrighty, well, guess what? We're back. And after looking at that blade, it broke right at the weld. So I got to get a hold of the manufacturer and have them look at that and get that blade replaced. But that's like $25 broke. So we just move on, keep rolling. So anyway, we're back here. We'll get to cutting this out again. So I got to follow my same saw curve here. Kind of something I wasn't expecting. All right. Normally I would run my dust collector on this to collect sawdust on that. I put a smaller blade on here, so it'll take me a little longer to cut through these. But what happens a lot of times, you just break a blade and move on. Not a big deal. You know? You can tell makes a lot of noise when you're cutting this kind of wood. 2x4, so it's not hard. But I did notice one thing. When I was laying out my pattern. Different 2x4s, the weight of them is a little bit different. It's kind of interesting. So there's my first one. We'll cut the rest of them out, and as you can tell, I got my lettering on here, one in that, so I keep these separate. So I pile them up in two different spots in my shop so that I keep them separate. I'll put ones here and A's over here and keep them separate. That way when I go to put them together and sand them, we'll have the right pieces with the right one. So I'll continue to cut all these out. I got 13 of them to cut out, or 12 of them to cut out more. And once we're done, we'll come back and I'll show you what the next step is. So hang tight. right, so we got our pieces cut. Let me kill this dust collector so you can hear what I'm saying. All right, got our pieces cut. We're done with the bandsaw. Didn't break any more blades. That's a good thing. So let's get set up here. And what we're going to do is we're going to lay this out. And we're going to screw it together. Put some screws in it and put it together so that you can see what it looks like put together. So hang tight and I'll get that set up and we'll do that. Well, there she be. Looks pretty good. Like I said, we got a little bit of sanding to do. Our numbers worked out pretty well. You know, you can see this edge here. Got some shaping to do, but overall, it looks pretty good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to screw it together so that we can sculpt it and sand it. So hang tight and I'll get that set up. All right, so here we are. We start with number 13 as the top. Put that down like that. Put this here. Now usually I got this little piece built up there. And I take my drill. This is why you get a flat bottom here. So that bottom sits square. And try to keep them down to the bottom as much as I can. I got some screws here. And there. And come over here and I put one down here. Same thing. Making sure my bottom is flush. And that would be my first one. And I'm not too worried about a gap just yet because I'm going to shape all this. So I got the next one, which would be number 11. See, number 11, I lay that right on top. Usually what I do is I push it up against there like that. Kind of make sure they're flat like that. And the other thing I do is, a little trick, is figure out where my screws are at so I don't put a screw in the same spot. So I got a screw there and a screw there. So I mark that and I'll go to either side of that. Put my next screw in place. So I'll go right over here. Yeah. And you can see the screws going in there about halfway. Do the same thing down here. And I'll do that 12 more times or whatever it is. And we'll go from there. Alrighty, hang tight and we'll be right back. All right, as you can see, I got her put together and now I got to get my angle grinder out and we got to sand this all smooth. So let's set up for that. I'm going to go check and see if it's suitable for me to go outside and do it out there because it creates a lot of dust. And let's do that and we'll be right back. So hang tight. All right, well, welcome back. We're outside. Hopefully we can get this done before it rains again. But let's find out what we got and go from there. So I'm wearing my dust mask and my earplugs because this would be kind of loud. What I got is a rasp wheel on my angle grinder here, and we'll cut this and shape this. And like I said, it'll make a big mess, and I'll get started on this. So here we go. I got a rasp on that. I'm going to smooth this all out. So here we go. This is the fun part, and this is the part that's kind of fun to do. So now I'm going to switch to my flap wheel. I got a 36 grit flap wheel disc here, so I'm going to use it to do the sanding. I just got all the big stuff off. I'll take the little stuff off and do that. Now, one of the things that I learned through my association I belong to, the AAW, was I was watching a guy do some carving with a angle grinder like this, and he talked about having a grinder that has a paddle switch on it versus one that has a regular toggle switch. As you can see, when I was doing this, it grabbed in places and it wanted to pull. And with the toggle switch, the minute you let go of this toggle switch, the grinder cuts off. So he was talking about that a friend of his was using one, and it had a push button, and he was doing kind of similar thing to it, and he grinder got away from him, and it come up and it cut his arm and his neck and all that, and it cut the cord, and that's how the grinder stopped. So he recommends getting a switch that, you know, and it cuts off. So anyway, just a little tip for that. I'll show you what I'm going to do with sanding, because this is going to be a time consuming, but this is the fun part, is sculpting it. So I just take the sander and go like this, and we'll just kind of smooth everything out. Just kind of whip my way around the board. Continue to do that. I guess you don't really want to see that. And then, oh, I know what I was going to tell you. Some people will take the 2x4 and they'll put it together and clamp it, and then they'll clamp it and they'll draw out where they want these little valleys and stuff to do, and they'll take a grinder with the rasp on it, and they'll go through and they'll cut all this away to get the shape, and then they sand it. What I did was I cut my shape, screwed it together, and I'll go through and I'll sculpt it and sand it. So that being said, I think this is an easier way of doing it. To me, it's a little easier. You know, I like the way this works, and we go from there. So, all right, hang tight, and we'll go from there. All right, sorry about that. My mic went dead on me, and I was explaining something, and I don't know if it got caught. So I'm going to explain it real quick one more time. Some people will take their 2x4s and leave them whole, and they'll put a clamp on them and clamp them together, and then they'll take a grinder and they'll grind all this center part out with a grinder. Me personally, I like to cut this out and get rid of that part, and then I'll have as much sanding and grinding to do to get the wave that I'm looking for. That's why I use that pattern that I laid out and done that. So hopefully that makes sense. I'll continue to sand on this, and when we're done, we'll go back inside, and hopefully we'll get done before the rain comes by. So hang tight, and we'll get from there. All right, so we finished up with that. Now we got to do a lot of hand sanding on it. But as you can see, it's got the general shape, and we'll do a lot of hand sanding, and then we'll go from there. So I'll continue to do this, and we'll go from there. All right, so I got it pretty well sanded. Now the next part is, let's go down, tear it apart, and burn it. So let's go back down to the shop, and we'll take it apart so we can burn it. So the fun stuff begins and continues. Hopefully you're getting something out of this, and we'll go from there. Hang tight. All right, so we're back in the shop here. Now we get to take it apart and start burning. So looking at this, I want to say that my union's going to go up here, is what I'm looking at. All right, let's take it apart, and we'll go from there. So this is why I like that, and I'll just stack them right back here. Continue to take it apart. And I want to remark these, make sure I get a good mark on them. And I'm going to put burn other side, because I'll burn this side here. It should be number 2. And I believe number 3 is marked with pencil as well. And I think all the rest of them are, yes, 3. Okay, I think that's all the ones that I need to remark, because once you get them burnt there, it's hard to see them. And so, as you can see, it is taking shape. Yep, 4 is marked. All right, so I'll continue to tear this apart, and then we'll go burning. Pyromaniac, here we come. All right, now comes the fun part of burning everything. So I just take my torch, and number 11. So make sure you burn the ends. And then I just a nice little burn on it like that. And the knots come out of there. All the grain comes out when you do this. I think it looks pretty good. So turn it around, burn the other end of this. I think it brings the grain out real nicely on it when you do this. So it kind of gives it a different look. You know, the harder you burn it, the different the grain it'll be. So I just kind of do that and on to the next one. So I'll continue to do this and we'll finish up. All right, welcome back. We got our burning done, as you can tell. It looks pretty good. Mark off where we're going to paint these and then we'll go from there. So hang tight. All right, so I got my union. And we'll mark this. So try to keep this as piece. That in there, and we'll make a mark where we're going to put this. Something like this. We'll take and union laid out. So we'll take. All right. So basically what I've got, so I got these little razor blades here and I've used them and blue on the other, as you see. So the blue is, and I just lay that inside here. Let's get this down. So I'm putting this in here where my mark is. I'll paint this side red and this side blue. And usually what I'll do is, so that's my red. The next one will be white. So razor blades that are white somewhere in here. All I got is red in here. All right. Okay. All right, so I got red. Now I got my white one. See? Okay. I'll set that one. Next one will be red. My mark. I'll finish these up and then we'll go from there. So then I put my white. White. White and then red. And the other thing I need to do is make sure that I got the right numbers. Lay my paper down. And I got a couple sticks. Put down underneath it. These are my white. I'll put them there. And also the color, keeping track of what color. My red there. And last to the red. We get our paint, and I'll get started painting these, and we'll show you what we're doing. We'll start. So, pair of gloves. Paint is not necessarily paint, but it's a stain by Minwax. Real well. Minwax makes some great products, I think. This here is a good stain. Here is a I don't know, it's a red. That's all I know. It's not written on here what it is. Kind of shake it up good. We will show you. So, clean off. Now this stain here, people say put it on, and then they'll take and wipe it off. Me personally, I don't wipe it off because I use the brush to wipe it off. Thing. So I know this side is white or red and this side's blue. So just take my and I just kind of shove some stain down in there. And is you just take your brush like so. That's what we do. So I'll do the white next, and then we'll come back and I'll do the blue, and then hang tight.